Hi, I'm Dr. Drew and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a channel not on medicine, but on all the other aspects needed to live our medicine lives. Today we're going to be talking about this concept called bias and how, in the case of finances, it has a huge effect on our financial decision making and even the expectations that we have. So what is bias? Bias refers to the ways in which an individual's preconceptions or assumptions can affect their judgment and decision making. So in the medical field, we know that bias can have a significant impact on patient care or outcomes. The common one that we hear in the Canadian space is that real estate is an excellent asset class. Real estate prices always go up. People always have somewhere to stay or always need somewhere to stay. And so real estate is a safe asset class. Well, that is a bias that they have for real estate, whether it's true or not, but it's essentially a bias because one would have to do the due diligence on all the other asset classes before they could make that particular statement. And it's not necessarily good or bad, but it's important to recognize that as humans, we all have biases. There are many different types of bias that can affect an individual's judgment and decision making. So some of the common ones include confirmation bias, the tendency to look for and interpret information in a way that confirms one's own existing beliefs or hypotheses. Implicit bias, which is unconscious attitudes or stereotypes that can influence an individual's thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Stereotyping, I think we all know these. A cognitive bias that leads to the overgeneralization of characteristics of a group of people, especially based on their preconceived notions. The halo effect, a cognitive bias that occurs when an overall positive impression of a person or group influences one's perception in specific domains. The whole idea of referral agreements and referrals is the halo effect of one individual who invests in a particular asset class and then everybody moves to that asset class. Representative heuristic, so a cognitive bias that leads to the tendency to assume that a specific individual group is representative of all the entire larger population based on a few characteristics they possess. This is a huge one. Availability heuristic, so the tendency to overestimate the likelihood of an event based on its recent occurrence or ease of recall. Anchoring bias, the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information encountered when making decisions, huge in the healthcare world. Social desirability bias, the tendency to provide responses that are socially acceptable rather than truthful in order to be perceived in a favorable light. And lastly, negativity bias, the tendency to give more weight to negative information, similar to like loss aversion, than to positive information. So these are just some examples of biases that we all have, including myself. We're not experts, but we have to work on it, work on our mindset. And this is what they talk about. And so why is bias important for physicians? So, in the medical field, it can lead to inaccurate diagnoses, ineffective treatments, poor health outcomes of patients. There's lots of research that has been done on this over the years. But in the financial world, it can lead to making financial decisions that are not inclusive of our values, making financial decisions that actually result in a loss, affecting our psychological health, not being able to sleep at night, making financial decisions that are not beneficial for our family, and over-relying on one particular asset class over another because of confirmation bias, So bias is very important to recognize. I mean, I have my own biases as well, but at some point I would say that there has to be some leap of faith. And so we tend to use bias to take that leap of faith. So in my case, I try to rely on due diligence or information that I can gather rather than bias to take that leap of faith to invest into something or make what they call clinical acumen. Clinical acumen is based on history and physical. It's not just clinical acumen. And so I think we need to realize that in the financial world, financial acumen is essentially what bias is, but we need to use due diligence or checklists to be able to see that it benefits us. So how can we mitigate bias? There are several strategies available, so recognizing and acknowledging one's own biases is the very first, most important step. And it can help us understand our preconceptions, know ourselves better. This is the reason why I said know your past, do that exercise. Seek out diverse perspectives. Hearing from people with different backgrounds and experiences can help challenge one's own biases. If you want to become a real estate expert, talk to a real estate expert. Don't talk to a stock expert and say, what is your opinion on real estate? They just don't have that experience and they will be biased. Use evidence-based strategies. Just like medicine, bias can lead to decisions that are not supported by the best available evidence. But having said that, understand that there are downsides to evidence-based medicine as well. Reevaluate your assumptions. Regularly questioning one's assumptions can help you make the best decision, and seek feedback. that's 5 minutes. I mean, bias is a massive topic. Immense books, literature has been written on it. I constantly try to consume as much knowledge as possible through books and podcasts. And the main reason for that is because I want to seek feedback and education on my own biases, try to basically control them or use them to my own benefit, and be able to make decisions that benefit my own life as well as my family's life. So in conclusion, a bias can have a significant impact on patient care and outcomes. By recognizing and acknowledging one's own biases, seeking out diverse perspectives, using evidence-based medicine, reevaluating assumptions, and seeking feedback and education, physicians can reduce the impact of bias in their own practice as well as when they're making financial decisions. It is important for physicians to be aware of the potential for bias in their financial decisions. And just because we're highly educated doesn't mean that we don't have biases, and to take steps to try to mitigate them. So on that note, if you'd like to follow the exact frameworks used by affluent physicians to take back control of their time and money, then check out the link in the description below. I make these videos because my mission is to help 10,000 physicians across this world fight burnout, and because I'd hope that someone was holding my hand through this journey. Come and join my free community of like-minded physicians where we share resources like calculators, cheat sheets, and everything in between to live our medicine lives. On that note, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'll see you in the next episode.